We don't really know. We've heard that issue brought up.
Bill, it's called vote.
Yes.
I'm going to take one more question, then I'm going to turn this over to John.
I could be wrong, but the way I understand this augmentation, you can go buy augmentation water from Upper Ark for less than 35 acres. You pay them money, you get a piece of paper, it gives you the privilege to drill a well on an acreage of under 35. You're not guaranteed a drop of water.
That's right.
The only thing that insures anybody's wells here is agricultural irrigation, because that's real water going into the ground. That's the whole thing.
Go ahead, Vic.
Yeah, you know, Bob mentioned that it's up to the planning commission and the commissioners to judge on subdivisions, but the reality of the situation is, and the big thing about subdivisions is water. And so if you have someone who comes in and wants to develop, take your 35 acres there and divide it into 7 5-acre lots, and somebody's got a pocket full of money to develop it, and they can do an aug plan, I don't know why they would be turned down. So the reality is that it's very feasible.
I wanted to and we'll continue. We're not pulling the plug on it. I just want to interject a couple things here, maybe for the good of the order. Maybe I'm the only one that feels this way. These conversations and questions we're asking about impact, obviously, if it's not within this blue line, we're not talking about it. Okay, that's the only area in the county. None of the rest of this has anything to do with this aug plan. The other thing I wanted to mention was, and again, I'm probably the only one, the reason I asked Vern to make these maps up so we could overlay the proposed aug plan onto our zones in this county. Now, I'm sure all of you get that. Zone 1 is in the green. We all know that's an 80-acre sacred open space agricultural zone. You can't build a house up here on less than 80 acres. Zone 2 is the light blue. There's 3 of those. Pardon?
And the mountains.
On the left-hand side.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. I missed those. Has to be 35 acres or greater per our zoning laws. Zone 3, the yellow, is 10 acres, one house per 10 acres. And then zone 4 is 5 acres. So the idea, I think, was one house per so many acres also equaled one well per acre if you have augmented water. You could be over here in this zone, right? But you can't drill a well on that unless you have 35 acres.
Right.
Correct.
See?
No, you're in the yellow. You're in the yellow, so that's a 10-acre zone.
But they can't get a well.
You can't
permit.
get a well on it. The state won't give you a well on 10
Subdivide here.
acres.
Yes, they will.
You will.
No, they won't.
Oh, yeah.
I said, unless you're augmented.
Right.
Pre-72, yes, but after 72, you can go over here and buy
Minor
and
claim.
live on 10 acres. But you cannot get a permit from the state of Colorado to drill a well on that ground.
No, but in 1972, when zoning came into effect, we had some very good people, and they did our zoning regs. And Fred Berry was on it, Ben Kettle. And the reason why we have this unique zoning is because they were concerned back then with the water. So we have very unique zoning in Custer County. We are zoned for less density. So we can stop it. We can stop it right at the zoning. Yes, I know that if they have the water, but we still, to go through our subdivision regs, you better have the money.
Yeah.
So to piggyback on that, I agree 100% what you said. I think there's another segment of that. And you brought it up. If we were zoned for density with an overlay of the state of Colorado determining how many acres you have to drill a well. The only way to get around Senate Bill 35, correct me if I'm wrong, is to have augmented water.
Correct.
Doesn't matter what zone you live in. Sorry, you can live in 80 acre zone or 35 acre zone, but under 35 acres, it doesn't matter.
If
You
you have
have-
a pocketbook,
That's, I'm saying, you have to have augmented water. What it takes to get that, I'm not saying. I agree with you. You gotta have the resources to do that. But just because we have these zones doesn't give you the right in zone 4 of 5 acres to buy 5 acres and drill a well. That's not happening.
Correct.
These are density zones. Doesn't have anything to do with wells.
no.
And I
you're
think
correct.
people get confused with that.
Tom, can't you have an in-house well?
Pardon me?
Can't you drill an in-house well?
No.
And you cannot drill an exempt nor a non-exempt well.
Not if it was
Post-
subdivided after 1972.
Post 72.
Unless you buy the water from somebody.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I was curious how this blue line becomes real. Is it a vote by the people or?
Okay, great question.
democratic decision?
No, it is not. And I've been accused of being very anti this blue line, and I'll get to that in a minute. This blue line is going to come into existence if Judge Schwartz in Division 2 listens to all of the evidence, and he will decide whether or not he's going to approve this plan. So what evidence does he take into account? The 22-page document Upper Ark provided, correct, Mr. Sinderhoff? In their application, they spell it all out. What they wanted, who it was going to affect, the GPS coordinates of the structures, everything that laid this blue line out. I might be overstating it a little, sir, I defer. That's basically it from Upper Ark, right? You've done your work. And that application was based on more than 2 or 3 years, but years of study, 10 years of study, geology, hydrology, all of that. But it accumulated into a 22-page document that Upper Ark submitted to Division 2 Water Court. If Division 2 Water Court, this is where I get blamed for being a monger about this, but I believe it's a fact, correct me if I'm wrong, sir, or Mr. Donnelly. Once that application was submitted to Division 2 Water Court, the only way Judge Schwartz would rule against them is if anybody presented to the court significant documentation of proof of potential injury from existing water right holders. Is that correct, Mr. Sinderhoff?
Yeah, it's up to the judge, you're right.
That's the judge does that. So nobody's going to vote on it. Nobody's going to have any input if they don't file. Does somebody have one of those? Thank you. If you do not file, I'm just stating the facts. I've got my opinions, but these are the facts. If the judge does not look at statement of opposition documents filed with the court, then I guarantee you he will approve this. The only way anybody's going to have any say other than Upper Ark is if people in this county file, I'll get to all your questions or I'll recognize you for your question, is if you file a statement of opposition on this form only and send with it a check for $192. Now, the water court has told me that. And she said, Mardell DiDomenico, the referee for this case, and the court clerk said, your people need to understand. That's the only way it's going to happen. Does that answer your question?
Yes, comment you made also a while ago was the only concern is within that blue line. What about next year? Will that blue
No
line go
idea.
somewhere else?
I have no authority to speak about what happens after this. Yes, ma'am.
Does the judge have the authority to change the lines that the district has submitted, or must it be an all or nothing decision?
I believe the only way he would consider changing that is if Upper Ark amended their application or requested that you change that. I know I had a bunch of questions, yes, ma'am.
So, domestic well owners
have a well permit. They don't actually own a water right.
That's
Do they
correct.
have standing in the water court
No.
as an opponent?
No.
Because they do
No.
not own a water right.
No.
No.
You can, as a domestic well permittee, you can apply to Division II Water Court for a water right for your own well.
Yes.
If you did that and got your water right, then you could have standing in the court.
But how long does that take?
2 years and.
Take a stab at her. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
On one of the links that I followed about this, there was a statement that the state of Colorado has a plan that should be finished by 2030. Does that, do you
Is that the
know about
Colorado?
that? Does this mean that they're gonna come after the rest of it within the next 10 years, or do you know?
Can't speak to that.
Basically, no, I can't guarantee that, but no, it's a management plan more than not a grant.
We don't really know
Trying to
what's
deal
gonna
with
happen over the
limited
next,
resources.
we don't know what they're gonna be doing for the next 10 years. Something about by the year 2030. Is when they plan on having, when they have the Colorado water
Right,
plan.
that's exactly what it is. There's one in effect right now. So this is the revision that you're talking about.
But that's not what this is?
No, this doesn't have anything to do with Colorado water plan. That's a totally different document.
Oh.
And that's for the entire state. This is a proposed plan for Upper Arkansas to give them the right to exchange water in or out of, correct, sir? In or out of this area. Not Custer County, just this area. To exchange water in or out of. I believe there's some language in there about additional decrees of water. That's almost over my pay grade. And then there was a third thing, exchange. Oh, and then of course augment. So there's really 3 parts to that. I'm going to get back over there. I'm putting somebody off here. Yes, sir.
I have a two-part question. Peace in El Paso County, does it include Pueblo Reservoir?
No,
Does it include part of the Arkansas River?
no,
Okay.
it's off
The
channel.
second question is, in their plan that Upper Ark submitted, did they give their long-term goals and objectives for why they want this
No.
compensation plan?
What is required. Now, let me clarify something. You asked if the little portion in El Paso County is off channel of the main stem of the Arkansas. Is that correct, Mr. Bob?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
He asked if it was part of the Arkansas drainage system.
Well, it is part of
It is part of the system, but it's off channel of the main stem.
Yes.
Yes.
That answer your question? Mr. Paul?
Just an observation, I guess, Jerry or Bob or anybody, this doesn't seem to help us at all, because it was more obviously for augmenting residential properties, maybe some commercial, number one. So eventually, that's a short-term game, but eventually it will draw down the aquifer through the wells. Is that correct? I mean, yes or no?
Well, there's no science.
Well, there's no
It's not a yes or
science, no science, but let's just use common sense as a science, okay? Common sense would seem to believe that it will draw down the aquifer. It doesn't help the ranchers at all. It maybe runs more water down the stream to get it to the Arkansas, but they have I don't see it as being a benefit at all to anybody. So I don't see what the advantage to this county is. I mean, I can see augmenting properties that are already subdivided and people have purchased those lots, assuming they can, put a house on their dream house someday. I can see that. But going beyond that and subdividing 35s, that was the original intention of the legislation, Senate Bill 35. It wasn't to subdivide the 35 into 35 one-acre lots and put 35 wells down
Couldn't do that.
and so forth. But that could potentially happen, different commissioners or whatever. So I don't see the benefit of this. Explain it, somebody explain the benefit to us.
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Jackie, I've been putting you
Okay.
on.
I feel like, in a way, you did a little bit of a disservice, Tom, about talking about filing the complaints.
Oh, okay.
You know, Joe Blow that lives off Bergamot, or whatever, has 35 acres, has a well, can file one, but he has no standing.
Okay.
And so Steve Kastner was very clear about how the court will weed out all of these objections if they have no standing. So a person like me, if I wanted to complain about it and say, I don't want this, I would pay money to file that form even though I have no standing. Water rights owners have the standing. Is that right, Jerry? Am I correct on that? So Rusts can file one. They have water rights. You know, whoever, they have water rights. They ultimately, when the court comes down to it, those are the people they're going to listen to. Not, you know, Joe Blow who has, you know, a 35-acre lot in Centennial Ranch or wherever. Is that correct?
I would agree, yes.
Okay.
However, I'd like to put the burden on the judge to sort that out.
I just don't want to give false hope to people
Well-
that if they spend, what is it, how much is it?
$192.
$200 to file this thing, that that somebody's going to care what they have to say. They very well might not.
They might not. I agree with you 100%. They might not.
More than one person.
Yeah, let me just say that, and then I'm going to defer to Mr. Campbell because he has something to say, then we'll get back to the question. I spoke about this statement of opposition. It's not a complaint. It is a legal document that people can oppose. That's how the system works. You're either an opposer or you're an applicant. That's it. So it's a statement of opposition. The water clerk informed me that any number of people can file on one form and pay $192.
Total.
So 10 people, 15 people, 20 people, as long as those people agree with the stated reasons for opposition, any number of people can file on one form and pay one fee. Go ahead, Commissioner Cannon.
Okay, I'm going to try to make an analogy here. And I'm going to defend the upper arc at some level here because I understand a little more than I used to. You remember the old co-ops, farm co-ops. There's power in numbers. And we just heard $192 one person files. But if you had 100 of them filing, there's some power there. Is to keep the water in the basin that they serve. In this basin here, and in Cheney County, and in Fremont County, not let water down. Even if this passes and you're inside that zone, a person with water rights, and let's say Donnie Camper would be in that zone right now, or the Rusts, perhaps. I'm not sure where the boundary is actually. Even in that boundary, they are free to sell the water to whoever they want, or to keep it, or to give it to their relatives. And that's our hope would be to pass it down through generations. But in the end, people are free to sell what they've got. And so I worry about some farmer down in the southeast part of this state wanting water for their farms. They could buy all the water. If all the ranchers up here wanted to sell it, they could do it, even with the upper arc there. But upper arc can fight it better with the numbers because they're collecting the dues and they've got the lawyers and the people to represent us. That's in theory what they're supposed to be doing. Now, that costs money, and that's what I worry about big government, right? When you start to say, I can help you out, let's put 10 of us together, and then we're going to have to pay somebody to administer it. And so that's why they have to charge a fee to go get it augmented, and then it's why they have to pay a fee if they're going to send their lawyers to Denver to the water court for us to represent us. Now, that doesn't mean they're gonna win. They could lose that battle, and we could still lose water. If somebody wants to sell their water to Pueblo, they could do it. So, we, in my view, we filed on behalf of you all, because we do represent you, you know, and we want to make sure that visibility is there to help defend our water here. So we need that ability to continue to understand it. So in that 2-year period of time it takes to go through the water court, and they're going to look at all the objections, and we're going to understand it well enough to say, I don't think there's going to be any injury to anybody outside of this. We still have the issue, somebody outside the valley could sell water above it right now. Or I could go, if I had all the money in the world, I'd love to buy some of the canyons up in here and build some dams and put some water in there to sell out later, to keep it in the valley for our use. So that's the issue, and that's why Tom and I and Jay are here to represent you.
I've been trying to sort out the order. Mr. Rusk, you've been very patient, sir.
Can I approach you?
You may, come up. And while you're doing that, Randy, let me just say I passed around a document, just keep circulating through the night. It is a list of all of the subdivisions in Custer County. I think you'll find that interesting. Go ahead, sir.
Number one, a well, the Kona Depression, that a well creates, draws from tributary water. Intercepts or draws from tributary water. There's no question about that. I'll just give you a little bit of history about local injury. Back when they subdivided Ute Mesa, put in 35 acres, Gary Woods went up there and built one of the first homes. Had a nice well. Things went along fine for 20 years. As people moved in, he drilled wells alongside him, and all of them wanted to be next to the creek, which happens to be our irrigation ditch. His well, he had to revisit his well twice. And then there was a guy after him, John Keaton, and there his houses moved in there. Down below there, Thornton's, Dolly Thornton. She had a couple kids here in school. Her well went dry. We have an irrigation ditch that flows through there, and we've got an irrigation ditch that flows even closer to the Keys Store ponds. In order to get water through it, we had to put it in a pipe. So it has a local impact. What Upper Ark can do is they can release water and it come down the creek, and it could keep the stream whole,
Right.
the Arkansas River whole, but it does nothing for local use here.
And let me point out, because I believe, I forget it, one of you two ladies asked that very question about how would it affect a well versus surface flow, right? And that's where you're headed.
That's where I went.
You're not done. You're done. I was hoping
We had the same exact thing on our place.
You can increase the use up here, offset the depletions down here, but you're gonna have more use here.
Right.
There'll be more local impact.
Yes.
And it's mainly, number one, remember this, outside of Senate Bill 35, which I don't agree with, water in this valley is owned by agriculture. And that water you're taking from us.
So while you're here, and you're an agriculturist, speak to recharging the aquifer as an agriculturist.
Recharging it,
How does that happen?
we need snow and more snow.
More snow.
More
Does
snow,
irrigation
but-
help
but
recharge
running
that?
water down North Taylor won't do it.
Okay.
It will make the stream whole, the Arkansas
Right.
River whole, but this increased use up here, somebody has to pay for it.
My question is, though, I agree, running down Taylor, make the stream whole. What about flood irrigating native grass hay in this valley? Does that help recharge the aquifer?
That's all that aquifer comes from. If all the water ran out of here, it'd already be a prairie.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to some first-time questioners real quick. Yes, sir.
So what remedies exist for somebody who has a domestic well that is damaged by an augmented well?
I know one of the answers, but I'm going to defer.
You go ahead if you, well, I'll tell you straight up, you're gonna have to prove injury. The burden of proof, unfortunately, is gonna be on you to prove that that well injured your well. Nuts and bolts of it.
How
Whereas
could
right
you-
now, the burden of proof is on Upper Ark to show that they won't damage.
That's correct,
That's
and
right.
that's in the law.
Exactly right.
Yes.
In this OG plan, the burden of proof is upon Upper Ark, that's right. Nobody has to prove other than potential water right injury. to
And
the
in theory,
existing-
all their engineering, all their paperwork, that's what they submitted in the plan, and that's what it's gonna take 2 to 3 to 10 years to go through the courts to settle.
Yes, sir, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, just a comment. I think it was Yogi Berra that said this is deja vu all over again. All right, and when we went through this 7 or whatever it was years ago, all right, and this all stuff came up again, you know, we decided to have a committee which was headed by the commissioners to go through all this, and it was decided not to do it. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Number one, we wanted to make sure that the water stayed in the valley. And this plan itself already says that Fremont's going to get some of the water for their road bridge. So that's water that's leaving the valley. The other thing is that it doesn't say is it doesn't prevent any drilling in the valley floor. All right, and so we've got some issues here, you know, and just like last time, they went and filed it without coming to us first to get our opinion. And that was one of the problems we had the last time they did this. They filed it in court without coming to the commissioners of the county first to let us discuss it. You know, and so, as I say, it's deja vu all over again, and I don't see any difference.
Okay. I'd like to address that just a little, because it's certainly been a topic that's been raised more than once. And so people have asked us in public meetings and privately, why is Upper Ark why are we going through this all over again? I don't really know the answer to that. This will sound a little rude. It doesn't matter what the answer to that is, to me as a county commissioner. Does that make sense? We've got a situation that we need to respond to, or I was going to say react, and that's all we can do now as a county is to react to this filing. That's by law. So I don't think that's overstating it.
And he's right, but to be fair, they admitted, in that meeting with Upper Ark, that a lot of you, half of you probably missed. I don't think half of this room was in that last meeting. They admitted, from a transparency point of view, they should have been on top of it more and more and more. And it's incumbent upon the members of that board to make sure that everybody that's affected understands what their plans are. It happened, is what Tom's saying. Now we got to deal with it. For the last few months, whether it was Mr. Tomling's been there. Just the way it is, Bob. They've given presentations up here before, and not a lot of people came. This is a great turnout. We just need to be more vigorous in making sure that it's put in front of the public. We get some comments, so our objections has some, or our going along and saying, yeah, you're right, maybe we won't be injured, I don't know. Or maybe we can control it by how we allow wells to be drilled in the valley by our planning and zoning efforts here as a county.
I'd like to defer to Commissioner Prince.
Thank you, sir.
If you speak up, sir, best you can.
I will do the best I can. I want to remind everybody here that your tax dollars help fund the Upper Arkansas.
Yeah.
It's close to $47,000, close to $50,000 a year that your tax dollars as a special taxing district, we pay them. They are supposed to look after our interests. And I do not understand, not once, but twice, between 2009 and now again in 2009, how they could go ahead and submit this plan without bringing it to us and saying, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it. I mean, I don't mean to be emotional, but I am extremely distraught that they supposedly represent you and failed to come to tell you they were doing it. I personally found out about it when San Isabel sent a letter to the commissioner stating this was filed. Now, I know my fellow commissioners may have known it before I did. I read a letter from San Isabel that said they have filed this. We are not in favor of it. What do you think? And I'm going, what did they file? It bothers me that you are paying for them. They promised to represent you, and they do this behind your back. This is a problem for me.
Yes, sir.
I understand this can only be filled out with water rights.
Not true.
No, anybody can do it.
Anybody
And that was the
can-
point I think Jackie was making. Let me revisit that real quick.
Okay.
It is incumbent upon the judge to sort out what he gives standing to in that court, what he really recognizes or not. That's why I said I believe that's up to him to make that decision. Legally, anybody can file a statement of opposition.
Right.
Okay, because as you look at this, it looks like you can get up to 4 names on this.
No, and I spoke with Mardell very clearly about that. That was a form on that she sent me. That's why I said, any number of people you can submit additional pages if you want to. It is not limited by the spaces or the lines on that form, the signatures or the applicants. Let me just state out one more thing legally here. If you file a statement of opposition, you must include a copy of that to Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District's attorney, Kendall Burgermeister.
We'll give you that information.
Okay? Yeah, it's on the website, that's right. So go ahead, though. You had another thought, or?
Well, just kind of going with what you're saying then. So if I'm hearing you right, then you could get one of these and get the whole county, theoretically,
Well, that's what
on that one paper
If you all agree.
for $192.
You'd all have to agree with your
You
statement.
follow where I'm going with this?
Yes.
$192 would cover everybody who wants to put their name on it, right?
Yeah. Then I had somebody say to me today, why would I do that if I don't have a water right?
Where there's
I
more than
think
water rights.
every person on the planet can be influenced. Yes, ma'am.
Just to make a statement, in 2009, there were several ranch owners and water right owners that did that very thing. We all came together, campers, rushers, rests, I could go on, and we did that exact thing to fight it in 2009. And the second thing I'd like to say, could we show of hands of people who oppose this for benefit of our commission?
Yeah, that's where we're going to go. That's where we're headed to. Other questions? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yes.
This may be out of context, but I was wondering if Bob or Mr. Donnelly could answer, is there an idea of Upper Arkansas being able to buy water rights? If someone in the valley wanted to sell their water rights, would
You're not out
your
of line. That's a good
intention?
question. I was going to ask Bob. You really
Let
ought
him
to
finish
state
asking the
permission.
question, Mr. Bill.
I'm sorry.
With all respect, go ahead.
I thought you would.
Would your intention be to protect those water rights here in the valley if you could afford to buy those rights? I mean, not you personally, obviously, but Upper Arkansas.
Okay, I'll answer the best I can. First of all, I'm gonna make a quick comment. You know, we had the H2O ranch years ago. How many people opposed that one? Okay? Not that many. But, on the same token, where was that water going? Colorado Valley. Okay?
Fountain Whitefield.
Now, with that also in mind, they were claiming somewhere around 800 acre feet of water that they were going to take out of this valley. Okay? Now, the Upper Ark fought that with tooth and nail. At one time, we got it down to 700, 600, 500, 400. We got it down, don't hold me to this number, approximately 250. So we saved that much water for the ranching community and the people of this area. Secondly, we turned around and bought, which anybody in this room or anybody in the county could have bought that water up at the ski area. We bought it to keep it here in the valley. So when people say we haven't done anything, that's not true in my estimation. Number 3, at any one time, we are in water court, defending and protecting the water within the district. Okay, so we get what is referred to as a resume from the water, which tells us anybody that's filing water. If it's going to be injurious to any water right user in our district, we oppose it, and we go to water court to help defend, to keep that water whole
for the people that we represent. Okay, so I had to make that comment. Then also coupled with that, for informational purposes, we have ex officio members that sit on our board. We have a 13-person board. And we have representatives from Round Mountain Water and Sanitation District, from the county commissioner, different water users, municipalities, etc., that can sit on that, and it's up to them also to bring that information back to whomever they represent. Okay? Next, we also have a website. And on that website, there's probably the majority of high number of these questions can be answered on that website. That's uawcd.com. Okay, Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District.com. Okay, now I got off on that tangent. Get me back on track with your question, please.
Well, is the intention of Upper Arkansas to buy water rights if they can in the valley if they come up for sale?
Okay, that's a good question. Yes, we have had people in this valley ask us to buy their water rights. I'll just use the H2O ranch. They came right directly to us. We did all of our engineering, our hydrologists, et cetera, and we decided no, we did not want to buy those water rights. Okay, because we didn't think it would be advantageous necessarily to this community, and it would not be money well spent. Okay, so would we buy them? There's a possibility, but so far we have turned down more than what we purchased. With that comment, you also have to recognize that that water in the upper district is for this district. And a misnomer from a number of years ago that this gentleman was referring to was saying we were buying water to send it out of the town or out of the district. Not true, we can't do it. The legislature won't let us. The water courts won't let us. So that's a misnomer. So if we do anything, we're going to try to do it for the best of here. And let's not forget that for the last 15 years, all these water rights in these various vessels, we have released that water, not Custer County water, Powder County water, Chaffey County, Fremont water, to satisfy those users so it wouldn't injure this county. So at one point we're up to 13 different plans just like this that we objected to help here. Somebody asked me just the other day, well, you know, so what, you bought that? Well, we spent almost $900,000 to buy that water, so it wouldn't go over the ballot. So, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes,
Thank you. We're going to go to the back. Mr. Donovan.
Another answer to that question is it would be a business decision.
I understood that from what Bob said.
That's the
You have to-
straight answer. It would have to be a business decision.
And I want to throw this piece of information out. If you do not know or understand this, Upper Ark, as we're talking about it, there's two arms of Upper Ark. Upper Ark Water Conservancy District, and then the Upper Ark Water Enterprise. Those are two different boards. They function separately and I think differently. I believe the same people sit on both boards. I've never seen anybody come on new. So they have an enterprise board meeting, conduct their business, adjourn that, and then move into the Upper Arkansas Conservancy District Board meeting. The Upper Arkansas Enterprise is to buy and sell water. That is their purpose. A couple of things. By law, if Upper Ark, in this case, submits an application for an OG plan, there is a period of this opposition that'll last until the last business day of the second month following the application being submitted to Division II Water Court. Upper Ark submitted this in December 28. 2018, December the 28th. So that opened up the calendar for January and February to the last day of the second month, January and February, for any letters of opposition to be filed. The clock started ticking on December 28th, and as far as the statement of opposition goes, it ends February 28th. Do you understand what I'm saying there? So a couple other questions, and then
Just wondering real quick
hold on
about
just a second, Paul. Let me throw this out. We're going to take a couple other questions, and then the commissioners are going to have a chance to respond and kind of close out. If Commissioner Livengood would like to have a closing comment, we will honor that as well. Okay, now I've got somebody that wants to ask a question we haven't heard from yet, sir. So, yes, ma'am.
Wouldn't it also behoove us if the commissioners did something like redo zoning to prevent a 35 acre being subdivided into 5 or 7 pieces or whatever? And am I wrong on this? Bull Domingo, 384 35 acre parcels there, woods at Jim Mountain, woods at Buck Mountain. When we learned at one point, Jackie, am I right? We were in a 5 acre district, and they, when they all found that out, it's like, oh my! And didn't they rezone? Or no, their covenants. They put in their covenants that we can't divide a 35 acres. I bet you if you let all the 35 acres in the area, I bet you they'd all say that. They don't want to subdivide. They don't want someone right next to them. So, but can a lot of the threat of, oh my goodness, we're going to get overpopulated, can't that be?
And it is.
By zoning?
That's basically what I said.
Right.
We're zoned for less density so we can stop them at the door.
We're already there.
And then rezone again.
And I personally, as a commissioner, will attempt to answer that in my closing remarks because that's one of the areas that I wanted to touch on. Go ahead, Paul.
Just one quick question of Bill and Bob. Why are we just blindsided by all this? Why did our county commissioners who have attended the meetings, Jay before Tom, why are we all blindsided? Why were we not included in your planning so that we would be sitting here today?
You're asking Bob and Bill.
Yeah, Bob or Bill? I represent.
Did you hear the question, Bob?
Yes, I did.
Bill? Did you
I
hear?
have no idea.
Excuse me?
I have no idea.
Did you know what was going on?
I knew that they were working on an augmentation plan. I had no idea when they were going to file it or what the final blue line would look like.
He's asking about communications, I think, Bob.
There was none.
Thanks.
And he's on the board. Mr. Bob, would you like to respond?
Personally, I disagree with Mr. Dunley. I personally have probably given over 50 presentations regarding water and the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District. For a number of years, on a quarterly basis, I met with the county commissioners. The county commissioners presently sitting. I think I've only been in there once, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong. And I think it was just once that we talked about water in the Upper Ark. I also feel as though, well, I like to see how many hands have come to our meetings. They're open meetings for everybody. Okay?
We trust you.
Not that many. They are open meetings. And hopefully people came back and talked to their respective organizations or neighbors or water users or whoever they are. I'm not going to sit here and stand and say we should not have done that. But the fact is that we did. We have made many presentations beforehand to the county commissioners, previous county commissioners, and people are well aware of that water aug plant or water aug plant is all about. So, was it the right thing to do? I think from their standpoint, they feel as though it was. Personally, I requested this type of meeting to be held beforehand, but I think the engineers, everybody, for the last 10 years have been working on this, and they picked up the information from previous meetings and tried to incorporate those changes in this plan. Secondly, I believe there were some people that were involved with our manager of the Upper Ark, that came up and took a look at Drake Creek and felt as though there was not any real injury to anybody in the valley. All these objections will go into our files, and we're going to have to, for the most part, enter into discussions with their attorneys, whoever they are. We're going to see them from Pueblo, we're going to see them from Colorado Springs, we're going to see them from Aurora, and and various other entities. So we're going to have to meet with each and every one of them. You take a look at the Conquistador, that took 5 years to go through court. We're anticipating, I know I put different numbers here, but I don't see anything within 3 years myself, possibly 5 years.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Process. I don't know if I'm.
I know you didn't ask me, but I'm going to answer your question because a board member told me in a public meeting the answer to your question.
Which was,
So I will answer it for you.
thank you.
I asked the same thing, and I was told, this is why we didn't go down the route that you think we should have gone, which is have these meetings beforehand. Because we tried that before, and we got nowhere with it. The citizens of Custer County did not want to deal with the Upper Ark's augmentation plan, so this time we chose legally to go straight to Division Water 2 Court without any input. Now that was damn near verbatim. We're going to have to close this down, or we're going to have to make an amendment, one of the two.
You're making an amendment, Tom, we don't want to shut it down.
I believe these three commissioners are going to sit here until the
Long as
last
you want.
person walks out. And I know that Rancher's Roost will accommodate us. That's up to you guys.
One more.
I should gavel it right now and let whoever wants to walk out, walk out. If you want to, I'll guarantee you nobody's going to look down their nose. But we still have people that want to speak, and we want to hear that. So are you okay? Well, let's move it on. Here's what I would ask.
Here, everybody's hand's going to come up.
Here's what I would ask, because we're going to get around to the point that was brought up, but I would ask that we do not belabor a point that we've already talked about. Yes, sir.
This is probably a question for Bob, but I want to know if Upper Ark is applying for an additional water right decree on any water flowing out of this valley, other than Castenstein water.
John, at this point, absolutely not.
None whatsoever.
No. Like I said, we have some, John, we did have some people that wanted to sell some water. We have looked at it, and we're not interested.
But I mean additional flow.
You talk about buying an existent one or creating a new one?
Creating a complete new decree.
Yeah, it's a new decree, Bob.
No. His answer is no.
No.
This is
All right.
all that we're doing.
Okay, yes, sir.
I got a two-part.
Mr. Mike, go ahead.
Upper Ark owns water right now, Conquistador and several other places.
Conquistador.
And the way they augment water is releasing that water into the stream. But they can't augment water in Custer County because we're not within their current boundaries.
That's correct.
If this is approved, and their boundary is expanded, they can augment water into Custer County.
In that boundary.
Right, in that boundary. So what is the difference of what they will actually do and how they will do it? Will they release water into the stream just as they're doing now? Will there be any difference in how they do what they do?
Have to ask Bob.
Time, date, and location,
That's right.
correct? So they'd have to release it at a certain time to make up for the depletion of an existing.
Or
Go ahead,
augment
Bob.
a well.
Yep.
I was just going to mention, just so you know, there was water released today, okay, out of the reservoir up there to satisfy some people that has augmentation plans.
In the county.
In the county, today.
Okay. Yes, ma'am, in the back.
The bottom line, as I see it, is that if you have this augmentation plan, the one thing it's going to do is it's gonna increase the pressure for people wanting to subdivide. That's what's gonna happen. The surface water doesn't mean nothing, it's a matter of how much we're gonna take out of the aquifer.
Right, it'll put a little.
And by the fact that somebody can buy water, there's gonna be people that are gonna they'll do it.
To fight what?
To fight as far as the zoning laws and that kind of thing, to get around things.
Well, they're not gonna beat Jackie up.
All it takes, who knows?
Unless Jackie can be bought. I guess everybody has a
Sure, everybody has a price, Bill.
It's no different than Washington. Look at the dingbats that are in Washington right now. Who's to say who's gonna be the county commissioners 10 years from now?
That's exactly right.
That's the whole point you vote.
Bob, I defer to you, sir.
I didn't know I was going to be a part of this, but.
Only if you choose to.
anyway, I want to ask the county commissioners and Jackie, how many subdivisions have been put into place in the last 20 years in this valley? With augmentation.
Probably one.
Well, one, and that's the one right across from Valley Ace Hardware. And they didn't have the water, so they actually had to hook on to Round Mountain.
So they have found at Ryan Mountain to get their water. So any other subdivisions, there hasn't been any there? I don't know.
No. The only subdivisions that Custer County is experiencing is the 35-acre subdivisions that the state of Colorado allow you.
I'm referring to water augmentation.
Yeah,
And
so no.
And I would say, by your own admission, Mr. Sinderhoff, with respect, and probably one of the reasons that hasn't happened, because without going to court for 5 years and paying hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars as an individual developer, they'd have to go through that before they ever got to the commission.
That's right.
Can I ask a question? If we just don't, if it comes down to it, we're trying to get Custer County out of the OG plan. If Fremont County, which is right above our blue line, is doing it, and I don't know, marijuana and hemp take a lot of water, correct?
That's what they tell me.
Yeah, I guess it does.
Okay, the marijuana and hemp do take a lot of water. Okay, so if Fremont County allows you to grow marijuana, and of course hemp's legal to grow, if they're right above us and we don't have an OG plan, they're gonna take the water anyway?
They could go
Will
buy it.
you take our water and give it to Fremont County right above us so they can water their stuff?
They can't.
If the OG plan, all of it is approved,
No, if we don't have an OG plan, but Fremont County does.
so everything above Fremont County, no. Upper Ark could not take that water.
But a rancher could sell it, or
But any
citizen could sell it.
water right owner could choose to sell that water, of course, which is the way it is right now.
Yeah, so you're saying that if Custer County gets out of this OG plan, and I live right over there in Fremont County, and I have a big grow, where am I gonna get my water?
Not from Custer County if this OG plan does
Unless
not
somebody
go
wants to
through.
sell it.
Mr. Bill?
I disagree. I think they can sell water out of Conquistador any place in their district.
Well, that's true.
In their district.
And Deweese.
Well, they've only got storage in Deweese.
Yeah, only a little bit.
Okay, so if Custer County gets out of this OG plan, and right across the line, we have someone that is using the water's gonna go over there anyway.
Correct.
Their water.
Their water.
Upper Ark's water that they
Out of
own.
Conquistador ponds and stuff.
Or Deweese Reservoir.
Or Deweese.
Yeah.
Because
And
they
they
store
can go there whether this plan is in effect or not in effect. It really doesn't matter.
That's why
They can
it's,
still take their water in Conquistador today and send it to Fremont County.
Thanks, Randy. Go ahead, Tim.
So Jerry, I have a question for you. You may not know the answer.
Good.
Does Round Mountain have enough water to develop every lot in both Silver Cliff and West Cliff if they're fully developed?
I can't answer that question. George might, but I've been long drawn around Mountain.
Good, George.
Yeah, I can't. I don't.
So
Would you allow George to take a stab at it?
anybody, sure.
Based on our firm yield analysis, we have water for about 200 homes.
Total or additional?
More homes.
Okay.
Additional homes that have, over a period of time that have not been built. That will probably satisfy the lots that are within West Cliff and the basic boundaries of Silver Cliff without Silver Cliff Ranch.
Okay, thank you.
Can I follow up with that?
Yeah, go ahead, and then I'll...
So one of the main reasons we pushed for a water aug plan 20 years ago was because the towns needed, or at least we foresaw the need, because we wanted to keep the growth in the towns as opposed to in the county. And in order for the towns to accommodate that, we saw that they would need water.
Okay. There's approximately 7,000 lots in Custer County that have not been built out. Owned, but not built out. Other final questions, comments? You want to go home?
I have to walk from.
Oh, that's right, you're good. Yeah. Okay. Yes, ma'am, then we're going to...
Well, my question was just the timing. So the 28th is the end of the opportunity to put in an opposition.
Correct.
Form.
Yep.
And I hear 3 to 5 years, but when does the judge rule? Is the judge not going to rule for 5 years?
That's exactly
Could be.
the expectation.
Okay, but the opportunity to complain ends in two weeks.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I think Upper Ark realistically knows it's going to be probably more than 2 years to get this application through water court.
Right.
But as of February 28th, that time period of community input basically will be over. Then it'll be a you-know-what fight.
And at
Water
that point,
lawyers from there on.
other attorneys could get involved as part of the court hearing if they were going to try to fight it, or?
Depends on who they represented, I guess, but nobody's going to get in the fight after this February 28th deadline comes and goes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Could this all go away if the Upper Ark decided to pull the case out? Could Upper Ark pull the case out?
Certainly. They can withdraw the whole thing. I need to probably make this point of clarification because we have not said this all night. The concern is not with the entire application. The concern's with the portion of Custer County that's included in this application. I don't believe, myself as a commissioner, I haven't heard the other commissioners say they have a real problem with Eastern Fremont County getting a water augmentation plan. I've not heard that. I think, again, as personally from this commissioner's standpoint, my only concern is Custer County. I don't have any ill feeling toward anything else that's going on because I don't know that. I don't know. We're going to wrap it up. We're going to get to some closing comments. And here, I think the nut cutting is this. We want to know how you feel about this water augmentation plan if you feel qualified to tell us that. If you don't think you have enough information to make a decision, then that tells us something entirely different. Question is, who would like to see this augmentation plan be pulled from this application? For Custer County. Drawn and pulled and withdraw portion of Custer County. Okay. In all respect, now, who would like to see this county move forward or Upper Ark move forward with this? You won't get roasted. This is transparency. Because I've had business, Mr. Sinderhoff, thank you. I've had business people say to me, why would you ever consider not doing this upper arc plan because it could help growth in this county. Here's my closing comments. As a commissioner, I believe this whole issue is not about water for Custer County. It is about density and growth. And I drive my stake in the ground and say I'm not in favor of unlimited growth. I'm barely in favor of managed growth. What I'm really after is targeted growth. Let's pick a number for Custer County and say, by golly, this is what we as a county feel that we can tolerate for numbers and still keep in this whole thing of lifestyle. That's how it came out on that economic survey, was lifestyle. I maintain too many people in this county will ruin the lifestyle. If you disagree with me, let's talk afterwards, because that is my personal feeling and I believe it strongly. So my closing comment is this. I'm going to keep my personal feelings out of it. I want to be a commissioner and represent this county. If all of you said we want to move forward with this, I can pretty well tell you these commissioners would have moved forward with it. And I've been criticized by saying you can't go in there in a loaded meeting and ask for a vote and then act according to that vote. It's not right. And I submit to you, who was not let come through that door? We opened it to the entire community, pro or anti-augmentation plan. My guess is most of you came here because you're concerned about this. The people that aren't concerned about it probably aren't here. What would you have your commissioners do? Have another 10 of these meetings? Go ahead, ma'am, quick.
I would like to see the commissioners start supporting some hydrogeologic studies of our basin, because we are operating in the dark. We do not have an understanding of the basin aquifer, the fractured aquifer interactions, and the types of things that most of the other Front Range communities, the other Arkansas Valley areas have.
Okay? I will just say this about that. You find us the funding, and I believe we're all over that. Yes, sir.
There's
Quick.
a lot we can learn from the San Luis Valley where I grew up. At 40 feet you get water, now it's like 150.
Okay. All right, thank you for your attention. I will defer to Commissioner Prince, and I would ask him to come to the podium and speak loudly.
I guess he knows me. Okay, first thing I have to say is, I missed the memo that said tan vests again. So I apologize for not being in uniform. Mr. Senderhoff, I would like to first commend you for coming here. I assume you felt you were going to be coming to a hostile territory considering the history that has happened before. I think it took a lot of guts, and I really commend you. But I'm going to ask you a very straightforward question. I'm not trying to set you up. Many people were here on February 6th.
Let's do a raise of hands of who is here. At the last meeting we had with Upper Ark.
February 6th, okay.
Or February 6th, whatever I said.
The spokesman for Upper Ark was a gentleman named Tim Canterbury, and he had a lot of very insightful things to say, as those who are here knew that. One thing he said that resonated with me, and I've heard it from multiple people, he said that if the county chooses not to support this, that you, the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District, would withdraw your application. It is evident tonight that this county does not support that. Will you, Mr. Senderhoff, confirm that as a result of this meeting tonight and the assurances from Mr. Canterbury, will you withdraw that application that you have submitted?
Thank you for not setting me up. I appreciate that, but I understand what Tim was saying, and if it is an injury, to the county, I think my entire board would probably say, withdraw. But that becomes a board decision. And you're asking me in front of this group where I stand. If the people don't want it, and the county commissioners don't want it, then I will probably say, let's forget Custer County. But when I do that, and if I do that, I will also tell this group, newspapers, county commissioners, whoever, if we don't get in here to Custer County, the next one may be Aurora, Colorado Springs, Denver, or some other large municipality, and we as a county will not be able to fight it financially, or will have a very difficult time. So I believe in the plan, and I believe it will help the counties. But if the people don't want it, why should I beat my head against the wall and try to support it? I have other things to do, and I have a living to make as well.
I thank you for that answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prince. Mr. Canada?
Okay, I'm gonna go right back where I was. I want the water in this valley, period. I have the same concerns about overgrowth and all that. I mean, and that's why we have the strategic planning process where we're gonna have some controlled, as Tom calls it, targeted growth. You gotta sustain what we have, or we're just gonna be a bedroom community with a bunch of retired people that are gonna spiral, out of existence. But I'm worried. I am worried. If we withdraw, who's gonna keep the water in here? Huh? Who's gonna help? I worry about you knowing enough about them, because I don't, and to make a decision and say, throw the bums out. There's some sneaky stuff going on or whatever it is. I think we owe it to you, and this isn't the county, by the way, this is 50 people. And I know it represents the majority, though, of feelings with the limited knowledge that you currently have. I need to know more, because if somebody comes up into this area and we withdraw, they can still buy the water. They can still take it away, and you're up to one guy standing up in water court to beat them. And I don't know that Bob has enough power in the Upper Ark District. It's a government agency of some sort that has some capabilities, and it's going to cost money. But we need to know a little more. We've got a couple of years. I just from a personal filing on a simple ditch and a spring and a well and a couple of ponds. It took 3 years to get that through just on my case. It's going to take that at least in something this big. It's going to take that maybe 4 or 5 years more. I don't know. So I think we owe it to you still to make an informed decision on how do we handle that to keep even if we withdraw. We don't want to cut off our nose to spite our face either. So you got to be careful. So I want to keep the water right where it is. I want to be able to have a farm. I don't want to have a bunch of dry land ranching up here, scratching it out on a wet year and then dying the next year when it's dry. So I don't know. We need more information, I feel. I think we've done a good job with coming in after the fact and having it somehow get filed without us getting that benefit up front, so we understood it better. But we still have time to either hammer it on the next few months or a year to make sure we get enough more information to do the right thing, especially if it does pass. How are we going to handle the growth? We got to make sure we can handle the zoning issues and the other pressures that somebody brought up on people coming up here wanting more water and overgrowth. We've got to be able to figure out how we handle that. So that's where I am. I'm sure appreciate you all being here, just like Tom had mentioned, and everybody else that had taken the time to be here to represent the county. Thanks.
Clarification from your point of view, if I may.
Go ahead.
Are you saying that this augmentation plan is the best means for keeping the water
No,
here?
I don't know.
That's what I kind of got from what you were saying.
No, I don't know. My point is I don't know enough.
Yeah, you didn't ask the question about, instead of who's for, who's against it, who's not sure.
Yeah,
Who is it?
who's on the fence? Let's talk about that. Who's not sure based on the knowledge base? Okay. So, Mr. Shields, go ahead.
So with what Bill is saying, defending the water, going out of the county, so on and so forth, everybody needs to remember that the H2O water was defended on going out of the county before with no augmentation plan.
Correct.
That has nothing to do with it. We remain part of Upper Ark District.
Right.
So, in fine. That doesn't have anything to do with augmentation. Put severe pressure on the planning commission to change things within this county on build-out.
Exactly right.
And then you gotta consider the existing wells.
Go ahead, George.
I guess the one question that really I haven't heard the answer to is, what is the other's opinion on how you're going to keep the water here?
Thank you.
If you don't have Upper Ark keeping the water here, and you don't have a plan to keep the water here, it's going.
Okay. And
That's what I was
That's
getting at.
where I was headed. So let's assume for a second that Upper Ark's plan is withdrawn. It does open the gates. Let's say Upper Ark's plan is approved by the water court. Do you think that's going to keep Denver, any Aurora, any of them from still coming up here? No. It has nothing to do with it. Upper Ark might serve as a buffer, but I guarantee you Mr. Bogle has the right idea when he does this. And I don't think anybody in here can argue with that. I agree that Upper Ark's augmentation plan might serve as a buffer. I'd be hard pressed to agree that it will prevent some municipalities from going into my water. I'll tell you what's going to let the water go out here is people that own the water agreeing to let the water go out.
That's right.
That's right.
Now, I understand what Mr. Cinderhoff, what Mr. Commissioner Camden's alluded to. We better be careful what we ask for, because you may get it. Right? I mean, that's how I grew up. In 15 years, when 5 water right holders, we don't have to call them ranchers. In 10 years, in 5 years, they say, I'm getting out. I'm selling my water. That's going to happen whether we're part of this AUG plan or not, in my opinion. Yes, ma'am.
If I understand Mike and Bob both with their presentations, Upper Ark would still be in a position to defend our rights, even if if this plan was not initiated.
It would be, I think, their responsibility is us being a member of Upper Ark.
I mean, we wouldn't have to have this plan in place for them to defend any court against water being taken out of the valley if it were valid.
We've been defending it for the last 35 years, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not going to change
Let me ask another question. It's loaded. If you don't mind, if you're a water right holder, would you raise your hand? Okay, thank you.
How many would sell their water over here?
In the next
You might get shot.
Yeah, and you don't get to raise your hand, you have to come up here and stand. Yes, sir.
We can stand here and talk about all this stuff all night. But the reason for this meeting was to find out what we were going to do to oppose, or if we were going to oppose Upper Ark on this augmentation plan, which we've already made a decision on. Maybe we ought to pursue and push on that, and then come back and talk about all this other
Okay.
stuff later.
Who, based on what you know, we've already saw some of you weren't ready to commit, that's fine. But who has an intent to file a statement of opposition? If you don't mind sharing that, raise your hand. I raised because we already did. Okay, all right.
I think we ought to read what we filed. Let them know what we did.
Okay. Bill, Commissioner Kanda asked if maybe we should read our reasons why we filed, and then we'll go from there, and then I'll
Let me
go back to
read
Mr. Vick.
Let me read exactly what the opposition says. The Board of County Commissioners oppose the Upper Arkansas Conservative District's application for a water augmentation plan for Custer County, Case, etc. Number one, for the following reasons. Number one, hold the applicant in strict proof of details of the application. The proposed blue line is very arbitrary and difficult, if not impossible, to define as the actual boundaries of said blue line. We believe the potential injury to existing water rights is significant if augmentation is allowed, could be significant. We believe that the Upper Ark filed the proposed application knowing that the citizens of Custer County had no input, nor would they support such an augmentation plan. You heard Tom mention that earlier. And we believe that in the language of attachment A indicating that all part or given section